Canada just made a move that's shaking up the US economy, and your state might be next to feel the hit. Have you noticed your electricity bill creeping up? Groceries costing more than usual? That's not just inflation doing its thing. That's Ottawa. In 2025, a new wave of Canadian policy set off a chain reaction that's now hitting everyday American families, especially in states close to the border. We're not talking about some Wall Street crash here. We're talking about the basics, things like butter, lumber, power, even school lunches. So which states are quietly getting hit the hardest? And why is no one talking about it? Stick around, because this isn't some distant policy issue. It's real, it's happening now, and chances are, it's already affecting your life without you even realizing it. Number 10. New York. Ever wondered why your morning bagel suddenly feels like a splurge? Or why that cheesy omelet or Friday night pizza is starting to pinch your wallet? The answer isn't just inflation, it's Canada. Yep, seriously. Back in April 2025, Canada clamped down on its exports and slapped hefty tariffs on dairy and processed foods heading into the US. For a state like New York, which depends heavily on Canadian imports, especially cheese, butter, and yogurt, the hit was fast and hard. Think about this. Cheddar blocks from Ontario that used to cost $3.99, now they're pushing $5.25. Bagel shops across Buffalo and NYC are paying record prices for cream cheese. And for a typical family of 4 just trying to stock up on weekly dairy staples, that's an extra $25 to $40 a month, just gone. This isn't Wall Street inflation, it's a quiet tariff war. And guess what? Your breakfast is the latest casualty. But it doesn't stop at your fridge. Home improvement projects are taking a beating too. Materials like gypsum, aluminum frames, even drywall, most of which are processed in Quebec, now come with extra costs. So if you're trying to renovate a bathroom or finish that basement in 2025, expect to pay $500 to $800 more than last year. And if you're eyeing a new HVAC unit? Service companies are already warning. Parts that rely on Canadian imports are driving prices up 10 to 15% across the board. Now let's talk big picture. New York's border economy is stalling. Upstate towns that once buzzed with Canadian weekend shoppers are going quiet. Diners are half empty. Gas stations are seeing fewer cars. Corner stores? Losing regulars by the day. And there's more. Over 15% of New York's electricity comes from Canadian hydropower, and now, Ontario's tacking on surcharges. That means just as summer hits and your AC goes into overdrive, your power bill could jump too. New Yorkers are tough, and yes, used to high prices, but this isn't about taxes or greedy corporations. It's Canadian policy, quietly jacking up your grocery bill, your utility costs, and your weekend plans. Ottawa didn't make a big announcement, but you can feel it in your fridge, your fuse box, and your wallet. This isn't just a political issue. It's personal. And it's already in your home. Number 9. Michigan. If your electric bills suddenly spike this spring, you're not imagining things. It's not a glitch, and it's not just inflation. It's Canada. In March 2025, Ontario hit the US with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports. For Michigan, where a huge chunk of homes are tied to the Canadian power grid, that move hit hard and fast. Families are now shelling out an extra $40 to $50 a month on electricity, and that's before the air conditioning season even kicked in. Own an EV? Charging it at home just became way less cost-effective. What used to be a smart financial move now feels like another monthly drain. But the ripple doesn't stop at the plug. Everyday household goods, like backyard grills, window frames, and other products made with Canadian aluminum and steel, are now slapped with steep tariffs. Prices are quietly creeping up, and families are starting to notice. Michigan's manufacturing towns? They're feeling it too. Local factories are pulling back production because the cost of imported parts has surged. Places that once thrived on reliable cross-border supply chains are now scrambling to adjust. All of this happening without headlines. No breaking news banners. Just a slow, quiet squeeze that's already tightening around Michigan households. While politicians in D.C. bicker over trade policy, parents in Michigan are unplugging appliances, delaying home repairs, and crossing summer upgrades off the list. This isn't a crisis that's on the way. It's already here, subtly reshaping routines, straining budgets, and changing the way families live day to day. Number 8. Vermont. What if we told you your favorite scoop of local ice cream now costs more than a steak dinner? Sounds like a joke, right? But in 2025 Vermont, the sweet tooth tax is no laughing matter. Since January, Canada quietly rolled out new dairy tariffs, and the ripple effect is hitting Vermont hard. Prices for everything from cream to cultured butter have climbed fast, and our beloved small-batch creameries and artisan dessert makers, many of whom rely on Canadian ingredients or packaging, are struggling to keep up. That rich, locally made maple walnut pint, it's now creeping toward $9. Organic yogurt cups that used to be $1.49 are now pushing past $2.25. For families doing their weekly grocery run, milk, butter, cheese, snacks, it's an extra $30 to $50 every month. Even school cafeterias are taking a hit, cutting back on dairy-rich menu items or resorting to lower-quality substitutes. But Vermont isn't just about dairy, it's about craftsmanship. And that, too, is feeling the pinch. Local furniture makers are watching material costs soar, especially for native woods like ash and maple. Canada's new export restrictions have made these hardwoods harder to source and way more expensive. A custom table that cost $1,200 to produce just last year? Now it's nearly $1,500, and that's before it even hits the sales floor. And here's another curveball: heating. A lot of Vermont homes depend on pellet stoves to survive those brutal winters. But the hardwood pellets, often sourced from Canada, are now caught up in fresh export levies. Homeowners who rely on bulk pellet shipments from across the border? They're shelling out an extra $120 to $160 each winter, just to keep warm. And then there's the one that really stings: maple syrup. Yes, Vermont leads in production, but don't forget, a lot of the bottling, packaging, and shipping materials come from Quebec. With the new tariffs in place, small producers are stuck. Either raise prices or risk falling behind. It's making it harder for the syrup you love to stay affordable, or even available. And the wild part? Most people don't even realize it's happening. These aren't flashy headlines. This is a silent squeeze, slow, steady, and real. Vermont families aren't just fighting inflation, they're getting hit by an economic cold front from the north. And it's showing up in every scoop of dessert, every chilly night by the stove, and every handmade piece at your local craft fair. Number 7. Minnesota. Keeping your home warm in Minnesota just got a whole lot tougher, and more expensive. As of January 2025, Canada overhauled its natural gas export policies, hiking up pipeline fees and cutting back on off-peak exports. Translation? Less fuel flowing south, right when Minnesotans need it most. For households that rely on Canadian natural gas, that's about $220 more per season, just to stay warm through the winter. And if you're thinking, well, at least we'll save in the summer, think again. Manitoba's added surcharges to its hydropower exports, which means your electricity bill is climbing even as you try to cool down. But it doesn't stop at heating and power. Even your breakfast table isn't safe. Prices for dairy and breakfast staples, like butter, milk, waffles, syrup, have jumped nearly 12% thanks to ongoing cross-border tariff battles. That cozy family brunch suddenly feels a lot less budget-friendly. Here's the thing. While everyone's glued to the stock market or big economic headlines, the real hits are happening quietly, right in the kitchen and the utility room. Canada didn't launch some big economic attack, but the result of their new trade rules? Minnesota families are getting squeezed where it hurts most: comfort and cost. And it's not slowing down. Number 6, North Dakota. Why are your pancake mix, pasta boxes, even dog treats suddenly more expensive across North Dakota? It's not your imagination, and it's not just inflation. It's the ripple effect from Canada's 2025 grain export restrictions. Back in March, Ottawa introduced strict new quotas on outbound shipments of wheat, barley, and oats, trying to protect its own food supply. But here's the catch: a big chunk of the Midwest's grain processing supply chain runs through Western Canada. So North Dakota's mills, bakeries, and food manufacturers, they've been caught in the crossfire. That family-sized bag of flour? It now costs $1.50 to $2 more than last year. Staples like oatmeal and pancake mix? Up by nearly 10%. And if you've got kids living off PB&J, brace yourself. Bread, crackers, anything grain-based is creeping toward luxury status in small-town North Dakota. But it doesn't stop at the grocery store. Local farmers, many of whom rely on Canadian seed varieties and specialty fertilizers, are feeling the squeeze too. Thanks to new border inspections and tighter export controls, prices on some of those crucial supplies are up 20%, and spring planting in 2025 has already been delayed. Experts are warning, this fall's harvest might come up short. Translation? Expect produce prices to climb even more. And then there's something a lot of families didn't see coming: pet food. Those Canadian protein blends and grain fillers used in dry kibble and treats, now taxed with tariff surcharges. Households with dogs and cats are spending an extra $15 to $30 a month just to feed their furry companions. Heating costs? Also rising. Many northern homes rely on propane shipments and heating equipment from Canada. Now, even small rural households are spending up to $200 more just to prep for winter, whether it's replacing a regulator or refilling a tank. North Dakota folks are known for being tough, practical, and community first. They don't panic easily. But this isn't some Wall Street crash or media-fueled drama. This is real life. It's about the cost of baking a batch of biscuits, filling up a tractor, feeding the family dog, or staying warm in a snowstorm, all because Canada quietly changed the rules in 2025. And now, North Dakota is stuck footing the bill, in the most personal ways possible. Number 5, Maine. Tried building a deck recently? Maybe replacing a backyard fence? If you're in Maine, you've probably noticed, it's gotten ridiculously expensive. And no, it's not just the economy acting up. It's Canada. In February 2025, Canada slapped broad tariffs on softwood lumber heading straight for the northeastern US, and Maine got hit right between the eyes. Everyday materials like decking boards, framing timber, even basic plywood, now 20 to 30% more expensive. What does that mean for you? A simple weekend project that used to cost $1,000 could now set you back $1,400 to $1,700. What was once a fun little upgrade is now a financial gut punch. Families are either delaying repairs, scaling down projects, or settling for cheaper materials they wouldn't have considered before. And it's not just about wood. Step into the grocery store and the pressures there too. Agricultural tariffs have pushed up prices on organic oats, root vegetables from Canadian farms, and more. If your family's into healthy eating, those little extra charges at checkout? They really start to add up over time. Heating costs? Also climbing again. A lot of Maine homes use heating oil blends that rely on Canadian chemical components. With new import fees in place, the average household is paying an extra $180 per season, and that's if oil prices don't spike again. And then there's the slow bleed of the border economy. Towns like Holton, Calais, Fort Kent, places that have thrived for years on weekend trips and cross-border traffic from Canada, are suddenly feeling quietly abandoned. Thanks to new border inspection rules and insurance requirements tied to Ottawa's 2025 travel policy changes, those casual Canadian visits? Way down. Some small businesses are reporting 30% drops in revenue from Canadian customers alone. That means shorter store hours, fewer jobs, and local shops just trying to hang on. So while the national headlines keep shouting about gas prices and inflation, Maine is fighting a whole different kind of battle. It's about whether you can afford to fix your porch, heat your home, keep your fridge stocked, or keep your small town economy alive. Canada didn't use tanks or missiles. They used tariffs, paperwork, and red tape. And Maine? Maine is the one stuck picking up the tab, on every front. Number 4. Montana. Thinking about a summer renovation project in Montana? You might want to brace your wallet, because in 2025, even something as simple as fixing up your porch railing just got a lot more expensive. Thanks to new Canadian timber tariffs and export restrictions, building materials have shot up in price. British Columbia, Montana's go-to source for softwood lumber and processed wood, slowed shipments to a crawl back in late January. The result? Local hardware stores and lumberyards are now charging 25% more for the exact same materials. That porch railing repair? You're now looking at $300 to $500 more. Full-blown renovations or new home builds? Families are being hit with thousands in surprise costs. Contractors across the state are giving homeowners the same tough choice: either increase your budget or scale back your dream kitchen. But it's not just your home under pressure. Montana's outdoors culture, hunting, fishing, backcountry trips, is also taking a direct hit. Cross-border gear like waterproof jackets, lightweight aluminum frame coolers, and high-end scopes, all slapped with tariffs and facing tighter shipping restrictions. A simple outfitting trip for a family headed to Glacier or the Bitterroots could now cost $400 to $600 more than it did just a year ago. Even your truck isn't safe. Many Montana drivers rely on Canadian-made parts, suspension kits, lighting harnesses, aftermarket essentials to keep those old work trucks rolling. But now, thanks to new trade rules, shops in places like Billings and Missoula are dealing with delays, limited stock, and rising prices, especially tough on farmers and ranchers who depend on these rigs every day. And groceries? Yep, that's another front. Montana imports several frozen food items and packaging materials from Alberta. But with new compliance rules slowing down cross-border shipping, families, especially in rural areas, are seeing freezer staples and boxed meals climb in price by up to 15%. Not because demand is up, but because the delivery trucks aren't coming as often or as full. So while cable news pundits argue about trade policies and political wins, Montana families are quietly bleeding cash at the lumberyard, in their garages, at the grocery store, and out on the back roads. This isn't just some abstract economic ripple. It's not about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about everyday survival. It's about tradition, staples, and the real costs of living west of the divide. Canada didn't launch a warning shot, but their 2025 law just fired a direct hit at Montana's way of life. Number 3. New Hampshire. Ever tried replacing your furnace filter lately in New Hampshire? In 2025, what used to be a routine maintenance chore now feels like a luxury repair, and here's why. Quietly, in late February, Ottawa rolled out new export controls. Doesn't sound dramatic, right? But hidden in that policy were fresh compliance fees on HVAC components made with Canadian steel, aluminum, or copper. We're talking about little parts, valves, control panels, cartridges, but the price impact is anything but small. Now, a basic HVAC tune-up is running families an extra $80 to $120. Major repairs? Expect to pay 20% more than last year, and that's a serious hit for homes already budgeting carefully for winter. This is a disaster hiding in plain sight. Service companies in places like Manchester and Concord are seeing it firsthand: longer wait lists, cancelled maintenance plans, and families delaying essential upkeep just to avoid the added costs. But that's just the start. New Hampshire's home improvement sector is also feeling the squeeze. Canada's new tariffs on home goods and building materials have pushed up prices on custom cabinetry, light fixtures, hardware, even insulation foam sourced from Quebec. Contractors are now raising quotes by 15% to 20%, which means homeowners are either postponing projects or settling for cheaper, lower-grade options. And here's the curveball most people never saw coming: recreational gear. For a lot of New Hampshire families, weekend escapes into the White Mountains are tradition. But gear like snowshoes, camp stoves, cold weather tents, much of it made in Canada, is now caught in a web of steel and composite part export restrictions. The result? That family of four heading out for a simple trip is spending $200 to $300 more just to get out the door. Even the grocery store isn't immune. Specialty breads and frozen breakfast staples made with Canadian flour or packed in Canadian materials are inching up in price. And the local co-ops, those that pride themselves on sustainable, cross-border sourcing, they're now facing tough choices: raise prices or cut products. And who ends up paying for it all? Everyday families. No protests. No viral outrage. No breaking news banners. Just life in New Hampshire getting quietly more expensive by the week. Not because of missteps here at home, but because of a silent trade shift up north that's now bleeding through the drywall, the furnace, the freezer, and your wallet. Number 2, Washington. Why are strawberries suddenly a splurge at your local farmer's market? Why does your morning smoothie feel like a luxury item now? It all points to one unexpected culprit: Canada's 2025 agricultural export clampdown. In February, British Columbia, Washington's friendly fruit supplier just across the border, quietly rolled out new licensing and pricing controls on its produce. The impact? Immediate and painful. Fruit that used to flow freely, cherries, blueberries, strawberries, now comes strapped with tariffs and new inspection fees. A pint of strawberries that cost $3.50 last summer? It's now pushing $5.25. That means school lunchboxes, pancake breakfasts, and homemade jam jars are all taking a hit, one berry at a time. And it's not just a cost issue, it's a supply crisis too. Grocery stores and co-ops in border towns like Bellingham and Spokane are struggling to keep their fruit shelves full. New documentation rules are causing border delays at Peace Arch and Summit crossings. And when fruit can't move, Washington's food supply slows down. But the pain isn't limited to the produce aisle. Restaurants that pride themselves on fresh local dishes? They're trimming menus or hiking prices. You Pick Farms, a weekend tradition for many families, are now charging more or dealing with limited supply after scrambling to replace BC's Bounty. And here's the kicker: Washington's close agricultural partnership with Canada, once a strength, is now a vulnerability. Ottawa didn't ban exports. They didn't start a trade war. They just made a few quiet regulatory tweaks, and suddenly, strawberries feel like contraband, and the sweetest things in life are now taxed, delayed, or gone entirely. No headlines. No political outcry. Just a slow drip of pain at the checkout line, and most Washington families don't even know who to blame. Number 1, Idaho. Ever notice your bag of frozen fries feels lighter, but somehow more expensive? You're not imagining it. In 2025, Idaho's potato empire, the crown jewel of the state, is under siege, and surprisingly, the threat isn't drought or inflation. It's coming from Canada. In March, Canada quietly pulled a power move, restricting exports of seed potatoes and specialty spud varieties to the US. That might sound minor, but here's the twist: Idaho's potato processors rely heavily on high-yield breeds from Alberta and Manitoba, the kind that aren't always grown locally. Now, fries, hash browns, chips, especially the ones made from Canadian stock, are more expensive, come in smaller bags, or have vanished from shelves completely. A bag of frozen waffle fries that cost $4.99 just months ago. It's now hitting $6.25, if you can even find it. Fast food joints, weekend BBQs, and late-night snack runs are all taking the hit. But this goes beyond fries. Idaho's snack food manufacturers, who count on Canadian seasonings and packaging, are feeling the pinch too, facing shipment delays and paying premiums. That bag of chips at your local gas station? Same flavor, but up to 15% pricier. And the strain goes straight to the soil. Farmers in southern Idaho are watching planting schedules stall because farm equipment parts and agrochemicals from Canada are tied up in red tape. Tractors are literally sitting idle, waiting on parts that cost 25% more than they did a year ago. Irrigation systems? Delayed or overpriced. This isn't just a potato problem, it's an entire ecosystem disruption. From the fields, to the fryer, to your dinner plate, Idaho's food economy is feeling the squeeze. And all it took was one quiet Canadian policy shift. No protests. No headlines. Just a paperwork change. And now, a state built on spuds is facing the crunch. Canada didn't drop bombs. It dropped policies. And now American households are footing the bill. Bite by bite,